All right. How many of you want to have more time in your day? Can I get a quick raise of hands?
Of course.
All right. Now, how many of you use AI in your day-to-day lives? Parang kulang ah. Not as many as the first question. Now, how many of you build AI? Whether it's training your models, whether it's building apps around it, just build. Okay, I'm seeing a lot less hands now. And I think you guys see the point that I'm trying to make here. With the recent innovations that we have with AI and the way you can use and build them, you have the ability to make more time in your day. And tonight, that's exactly what we're going to show you. Tonight, we are going to discuss hacking habits, building an ambient home AI with AWS to optimize daily productivity. Wow, that's a bunch of words, right? Trust me, it's gonna get very simple. AI din ako, kaya ko yan i-summarize and simplify for you. But, okay, joke lang. But before we proceed, let's quickly talk about our agenda. We'll talk about how we came up with this whole idea in the first place. Let's talk about how we use AI on our day-to-day steps. And let's talk about the technical implementation. Because of course, we're not just here to, put AI on the pedestal and be like, wow, shiny new tool. We'll actually use it. All right? So before we proceed, I'm seeing a lot of new faces, so I'd like to begin with an introduction. Hi, I'm Lesmon. So please take note of the spelling. Nobody gets it right, but there you go, Lesmon. And as mentioned earlier, I am a lead for a startup, and I also do a lot of side projects and apps for fun. Now, there we go. I'm a technical manager and a tech lead for software engineering at work. Pero, outside of work, I'm just a 21-year-old who just moved out and is living alone and is struggling kasi we'll get to why. Okay? So, when you move out, for those who have first moved out for the first time, can I see who live alone now? Quick raise of hands. Sino dito yung may kanyang dorm, bahay, unit, condo? Okay, quite a few lesser hands. So, not sure if many will relate to our problem at hand, but we have one, which is if you're alone, house chores and house tasks are very time consuming. Like take it from me, I wash dishes so often, I sweep the floor too much, and it's very time consuming, which makes me wonder. There's probably a way to optimize and save time, right? And not to get your hopes too high up, I didn't build a robot yet. Okay, just in case yun nasa isip nyo, but something else, there's a lot more fun that we can do with software. And a quick background, I remember a year ago when I gave a talk at the AWS Community Day, I had the same context, which is I have a lot of problems and I get too annoyed, I build a solution. Which is pretty much exactly how every startup works. You have a problem, you get annoyed, you build a solution. So that's how, if you want to build your own startup, promise, yun yung advice ko. Alright, so moving forward. After our segue, there we go. Let's talk about our vision. So I am going to show you a very, very technical diagram. Okay, I want you guys to focus and lock in. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Diba? Very technical. Okay, you see why I chose this career and not, art. But ito yung idea. Okay, that's me at home with some device to measure what I'm doing, a camera, and AWS to do all my processing for me. Kasi what's a camera going to do? Hindi niya naman kaya mag-AI locally. That's just a phone, right? But that's me cooking and tracking my movements with AI. So, quick security disclaimer. Don't do this kung hindi nyo alam ginagawa nyo for all security constraints, okay? I did all my networking properly. Safe lahat ng data ko. But don't do this kung hindi nyo alam. Alright, but moving forward. Okay, let's talk about how I did this. Like, why did I come up with building the solution, and how do you even come up with how do you build such a crazy idea? Kasi again, I mean, coming from me, I've worked with so many startups ever since my career began when I was 18. So you gotta make sure na there becomes a framework to it. It's not just there's something cool and I want to build it. That's a pitfall for so many developers. So you need to make sure na you know what you're doing, and this is my way of knowing what I'm doing. All right? So that's what I call my what to build framework. It's my way of translating real-world problems into technical solutions. And it's coming from my best and worst attempts at building startups. So you know how in the world of startups, it's pretty much build, 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 and fail fast. But people often skip the failing part. They think, oh, I'm gonna build it agad and it's gonna work and I'm gonna make 10,000 USD MRR. It rarely works that way, okay? But the best thing you can do is fail fast. So that's what I've done many, many times over and over again. And I've digested the solution into just 3 steps. So really simple, 3 steps. And this guides me, increases my success rate whenever I build things from a horribly detrimentally low value to somewhat reasonable na. And I've found fairly good success in what I do thanks to this. Okay? So does this sound interesting to you guys? Is this something you would use? I can't hear you. Yes. All right. Okay. So maybe not everyone here will want to build their startup yet, but trust me, even in your own projects, whether you're in a corporate company, all of this will prove very, very helpful. So let's begin. What's our first step? You define your problem, or what I call the exact problem definition. What that means is you really put a pin on it. What is it that you're trying to solve? You might have heard the line, well-defined problem is a half-solved one. Kasi pag alam mo na gagawin mo, just implement it. You write out the code. Kaya nga may PMs tayo para we know what to build. But if you don't know what to build, you're not gonna get anywhere. So my problem that I want to solve is how much time do I spend doing things around the household? Very tangible. It's very easy. Ano yung output ko? Just a list of things I do and how much time I spend. And the reason why this is important is because with data, you get insights, and with insights, you make you make better decisions. Not actionable. But yeah, you get the point. Kapag you realize na, oh, you're actually spending so much time on this one thing, you realize, is it actually worth it? So that's what I found, alright? So step 2, you do a conceptual decomposition. You go from what you're doing, what you're trying to solve, and then you do conceptual. What do you mean by conceptual? This is a very funny term, but I call it thinking in probablys. Probably as in going back to our very amazing diagram earlier, you realize now for what I talked about, you probably have to track what I'm doing. I probably need a video input, hence the camera. I probably have to store, collect, and enrich the data. So I'm probably gonna need some storage, like a database, some compute, and I probably need to do some analytics. So, just whatever analytics tool I can come up with, whether code or there's a solution out there, I just use it. So you see how we came from that very, very amazing artist diagram into some tangible points na, okay, medyo gets na natin nangyayari. Alam na natin na, okay, may sense, may video, and then may AWS somewhere, and I'm gonna get some insights. So all of that making sense so far? Yes, okay, I hope so. All right. Now, moving on. Let's go to the third step. We did a step 1, which is yung thinking about the problem. Step 2, which is conceptually thinking about the problem. Step 3 is technically decomposing it. So ito na yung tinatalon lahat ng developers. Diretso tayo dito eh. When you think about these, you think about your definitelys. Like kapag may sinabi ako na, oh, I need to do this, everybody here na, most developers would probably jump to the conclusion na, oh, you're gonna need RDS, or you're gonna need Dynamo, and you're gonna need Lambda, and networking, and whatever. But that's where over-engineering comes in. And trust me, it's not worth it. You need to go from your probablys into your definitelys. So remember our probablys kanina. We probably need some data source, some video input. I have a spare phone. I probably need some storage and some enrichment. So good thing there's AWS and I can just write my own code. And there's also probably some analytics while I can have AWS and my own code. So all of those 3 steps combined, coming from an exact definition of a problem, you think about it in probablys, you think about it in definitelys. That's my golden ticket to approaching any technical problem that you will ever face. And any problem actually that you will ever face. Now let's see how that applies to AWS. Kasi when I said na it's pretty much every problem, it applies to AWS. Who here doesn't have a certification yet for AWS? But they want to. Okay, I'm seeing a lot actually. So kita nyo na kay Boss John Bonso, okay? Alam niya na agad. Alright. Yeah, no, free down. You heard it from him. Okay, so let's try and take itong framework natin into discovering AWS. When the things that we've described earlier, sabi ko, I probably need some compute. I probably need some storage. I need something that does X, Y, Z. Where can I find it? Right? And I think of this as a very funny game. I always say this line, there's probably an AWS service for that. Name one thing that you want to do technically. There's probably an AWS service for that. Trust me. So this is our thinking in probablys approach. Here are, I just listed down some things, you don't need to worry about it, but these are things that I thought would make sense for the project. And would you look at that? There's probably an AWS service for that. So trust me, can somebody here blurt out any technical thing, anything you do in tech na kailangan mong i-set up? Let's say, kunwari, okay, someone said authentication. Good job. What's your name?
Alex.
Alex. All right. Everyone give a round of applause to Alex. All right. So, authentication. Can somebody tell me ano yung thing that comes into your mind pag authentication sa AWS?
Amazon Cognito.
Say it louder, please.
Amazon Cognito.
Perfect. Right. Di ba? For if you need authentication, there's Amazon Cognito. One more thing. Blurt out pa kayo ng something technical na kailangan gawin for most projects. Anything. Sige, I'll go first. Let's say a second. So let's say for networking, kapag kailangan mo ng private subnet to private subnet connections in AWS, there's VPC peering from your private network to somebody else's private network, right? So think of something very basic as authentication to something as niche as VPC peering. They exist in AWS. Okay, maybe we can have one more. Let somebody just throw out a technical term. I think may libreng swags from Darla kapag may nag-throw up, kapag nag-blurt. Come on, something that you've been wanting to study or you have been studying. Just yell it out.
API.
Okay, API. Okay, good. Medyo broad, but if you want an API, I can name like 3 services you would use it for it. There's the API gateway for nakakabitan mo ng Lambda or kabitan mo ng iba like compute for EC2, ECS. But you guys get the vision, right? Whatever it is that you have to do in tech, AWS probably has it.
Yes.
So let's talk now about the most exciting, not exciting, but it's very fun, okay? Which is the AI integration in every step. I get so used to it now. Parang kaka-talk about AI. I always say, AI, AI, AI. That's what you hear out from every massive tech company. But it's true because it's very helpful. And we're going to see that in action tonight. So let's talk about my model on technical development. Whenever I have to build a project, I consider there's 2 parts. There's a hands-on part where I actively code or I'll work with my terminal or my console, and the hands-off part where you do brainstorming, you do research, you do focus group discussions with your users, you do wait lists, marketing, sales, all of these. These are hands-off. Now with those 2, magic, you have AI for all of them, okay? And when done properly, AI can supercharge your workflows, whether hands-on or hands-off, by a massive scale, all right? And we'll get to that in a bit on how that actually happens. So first example lang on how this works. When you're working with AWS, and remember, we were talking about thinking in probablys. There's probably a service for that. When you want to discover a service for that, this is exactly what I did sa console. Let's see if I can switch to it actually. Sa console, oops, na-spoil ko yung demo later. But anyway, there's Amazon Q sa right, which is a chatbot, but it's focused specifically on AWS blogs, post data, everything, para it can answer your questions related to AWS. So if your question is, what's the service for authentication? Q is probably the best one to answer. And if you want to go very deep, how do you do, let's say, Cognito user pools? Q is probably the best one to answer as well. So this helps whenever you want to go from your discovery first, from your problem to probable, as well as technicals. So I did that for, I believe that's S3 and cron, but you can do it for anything else as well, all right? When you want to discover stuff in AWS, Q can be your best friend. Now, one more, vibe coding or code assistance. Kapag gusto mo ng help whenever you're coding, you just need to, hindi mo memorize yung syntax eh. Gets mo anong kailangan gawin, pero hindi mo memorize, okay, is it spelled like this? Which object is it? Which library? Code assistance helps a lot, and Amazon has a tool for that. It's called Amazon Q. You can install it as an extension, and it saved me so much time in building this project. So if you haven't tried it out, I would recommend na later, try natin. All right, so we've gone through a few of the AI stuff that AI can help you out with, whether hands-on, kapag nagko-code ka, or hands-off, like research. Let's take a deep dive now into our technicals. Parang we set all of that up. What does it actually look like when you will implement it? So here, going back, let's apply the framework again and take a look at the exact problem naman sa part na to, which is what's the technical architecture necessary para ma-enable natin yung features natin. Remember the vision, that amazing diagram of an artist. We have that, but what does it look like on a technical standpoint? Well, fundamentally, again, conceptually, we have three steps: data generation, processing and storage, and sorry, yung last bullet is analysis, data analysis. And here's what it looks like on a technical implementation naman. So we went from conceptual. Okay, let's tie it back again. Conceptually, ito yung problem natin. What's the technical architecture? Conceptually, may three steps. Technically, may three steps then. All right. So you don't need to worry about the technicals of this. I can share my slides later. But for now, I just want you to focus na there's three parts: the generation, transformation, and analysis. So let's take a first look at the data generation part. And this is probably the most hilarious slide I will ever put in my slides. That's my setup. Yes. $1 million setup. I know. You don't need to clap for me. Joke lang. But yeah, I do have a phone that's at the corner of my room, of my unit. And it's tracking my movements using pictures. I just built some app to do it for me, upload it to S3. So that's what my data generation setup looks like. So yun lang, really simple. I don't need to deep dive into the app. But moving on to the next step, we have data transformations naman. Now, it's rather complex. So let's take this part by part. You will understand everything na ginawa natin. Magme-make sense siya. Ita-trace natin, okay? So remember, we stopped using yung pictures. Nandun pa tayo from my camera. The next step to that is it uploads pictures to an S3 bucket. Na, of course, again, private lang na ako lang may access. And once the images are there, I have event notifications sa S3. So for those who are not familiar, when you upload an image to S3, minsan may gusto kang gawin with that image or object. S3 has this feature where you will take that and then do whatever you want with it. So what I did with it is kinabit ko siya sa Lambda. Sorry. There's a Lambda part. And what it does is from image, it labels kung ano yung content ng image. Am I cooking, cleaning, sleeping, or washing the dishes, or eating, or working? All of those, we come from image, label it with AI to a structured data set. And I did that using Claude 3.5 Sonnet, just because. Pero you can use whatever in Bedrock. There's so many models that you can choose from. I believe may mga nadagdag na ever since I last built this app. So you can use whatever, but kailangan lang may image processing siya. So that's one given. Now, going back to those supercharged use cases of AI, if you tried to do this way back then, actually, quick raise of hands, sino nag-try mag-image labeling way back then, before the age of LLMs? Okay, I'm seeing a few hands. Yes, mga data guys natin, mga data science guys natin. Thank you. So when you try to do that dati, okay, let's talk about now. Now, you just give it a prompt and call the API, add the image. That's about it. That's my code, actually. Ganyan lang talaga kaikli. But way back then, if you tried to, you would need to collect and label a data set. You would need to train a model. You would need to set up your training pipeline. You would need to deploy, inference, all of that. That's too much headache for a fun project that I'm trying to do. So I don't want to do that and spend 10 hours labeling